All right. What's up, guys? You see, no shades on today. Oh God. What's up, guys? Welcome to the latest episode of the Good Faith Show. I'm your host, Andre Morton, and the Good Faith Show is only exclusively on the ATP Network. You can catch the ATP Network on all major podcasting platforms: YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, and Rumble. Like we everywhere, man. Tell him. Except for Rockfin for some reason. Rockfin don't want us on their platform apparently. I don't know. When you fill out the application, it says how many subscribers you have on YouTube, the name of your network, contact information, but nobody hasn't got back with me. And I always check my emails. I think I check my emails more than I check my notifications on Twitter. So I think so many people DM me to say, "Hey, I want you to come to my show," and I haven't responded, which I'm an idiot. Like, but oh man, I gotta do better. You know. Um, but anyway, I don't know why I got into that long tangent. Like the video if you haven't done so already. When you like the video, it pushes us out in the algorithm. So if you didn't know, like that's what that's for. And also on the bottom of your screen, follow the official ATP Network Twitter account. The handle for that is at ATP Network. Oh, ATP Network 247. Um, and also to follow the ATP Network crew. Those are all our handles right there. And also too, man, go on GothaFunds.com. If you want to help some Palestinians out, some of them try to escape, some of them need help, just help. Go on there. It's lots of people that need help. Maybe some of the bad faith actors on Twitter that instead of screen capping people's messages, how about going on GothaFunds.com and you know helping out a Palestinian or two. Like, do something productive with your time online instead of fucking with other people. But I digress. So yeah, man. Today's an interesting show. It ain't gonna be as long as the other one. Um, really ain't much to talk about, really. I guess because Elon is leaving next month, and yeah, it's kind of like a weird time. Like at first, it was so much shit to talk about. I couldn't cover it all because hell, I'm a one man wrecking crew right here on my own show. So yeah, I got a instead of videos, I got a few things to show y'all. Starting with this one. Shout out to Afeni, the friend of the show. Some of you may know Pope Francis died today. Well, not today, but as the recording of this video. Very sad. I didn't even know this about Pope Francis. I like Pope Francis because at the time when I was a demo dummy, he said Trump is not a Christian, and yeah, I was a Christian at the time too. I'm not no more. I'm agnostic if you don't know, but yeah. Apparently Pope Francis, he's not perfect. He probably said some stuff that probably will rub me the wrong way. I mean, anybody says things to rub you the wrong way. Nobody's perfect. That's why I don't get with his purity test. But if you're on the right side of history, like what this tweet by Feeney says, like you're in my book. It says Pope Francis was pro-Palestinian, pro-black, pro-LGBTQIA plus, and pro-progress. The next pope is going to be the farthest right you can imagine, because fascism seeks to infect every institution, and it's on the rise around the globe. Buckle up. So yeah, that's true. Like one thing that got me was the guy was pro-Palestine. I didn't even know that. Like I thought the Pope was hell. I thought he was part of the establishment. Like who in the fuck in the establishment is pro-Palestine? Like most of them are pro-Israel, pro-black. Like you know, typically the establishment cosplays being pro-black, but being pro-black is plus. And another bonus, which the Pope is religious. Like I know some parts of the Bible says something about it criticizes gay people, but he's pro LGBTQIA plus. Like that's based. Like you know, so yeah. Shout out to the Pope. And I didn't even know all this. Shout out to Feeney. This is why I love my comrades, man. They come with the facts. I love facts. I hate. I like being told the truth. So shout out to that. This one right here, man. Like, yeah, this is true. Oh my God. Like, yes, humanity has failed us around the world, man. Like, the world is on fire, and we got Katy Perry, Gail, the Wonder Woman apparently was a SA victim, you know, and I don't know who those other people is, but like, yeah, like they wasn't even in space. Like, I hate when people say they flew to space. No, they didn't. They flew to the outer edge of space, for like what, 11 minutes. Like, that's nothing to be happy about. But yeah, like, man, these billionaires, man, the billionaires gotta go. They gotta go. Like, billionaires, really, to be honest with you, shouldn't even exist. Like, I think anything over $1 billion, like, hell, even 100 millionaires is excessive. A billionaire, like, you kidding me? That's crazy. Like, this country could have billionaires buy whatever they want, fly into outer bands of space and shit. But we got people that are homeless and don't have enough to eat, and we don't. And our public schools are underfunded. People can't go to the doctor because they can't afford it, and even going to the doctor, like, unless you have your insurance card, and that's not even enough. You got to make sure your insurance is willing to pay for most of the procedure. And we have this, what you see on your screen. So yeah, yeah, man, like, billionaires gotta go. Abolish all billionaires. I'm all for it. Forget tax the rich. Abolish the billionaires. You know, and also too, tax the churches as well, because yeah, like, that's crazy. Like, these mega churches make millions of dollars each week, and it's tax free. Oh my God. And, apparently most of these churches, man, aren't even what you call. A lot of these folk people ain't even. Never mind. I'm not gonna get into all that. So yeah, man, I'm gonna talk about Nina Turner talks about Birdie's rallies. Uh, Excuse me, I've been yawning a lot. I got a couple of Mundo Weeks articles, a breakdown of the U.S.-China trade war, and a video by Second Thought called Neoliberalism Needs to Go. So yeah, y'all, again, be sure to like the video, and let's get to it. So, all right, guys. So yeah, this video is from Second Thought. It's about neoliberalism needs to go. Man, and 100% agree. But shout out to Second Thought. They finna break it down to a T. Um, if you don't know what neoliberalism is, he about to explain it to you. To be honest with you, neoliberalism is a new wave of conservatism to me. Like, that's how I see it. But I'm finna play it and pause it in between and break down. So, here we go.
Hayek, the greatest economic philosopher of the age.
How magnificent it must be to witness his ideas validated before the eyes of the world.
If there's a word we love on this channel, it's neoliberalism. Neoliberalism. It's the ism behind things like why our healthcare sucks, why so many people have shitty jobs working for Uber and DoorDash, why Russia got turbo destroyed in the 90s. It's why The Rock's Twitter bio is founder of stuff. It's a thing that matters a lot, but we've never actually spent the time.
So basically, neoliberalism is the reason why your life sucks in America. So, yeah. Neoliberalism is the reason why billionaires exist. Like The Rock, he's pretty sure. I don't know if he's a billionaire. Have to check, but yeah, the founder of stuff. Yeah, that's what neoliberalism is. I mean, neoliberalism really started with Bill Clinton. Then really Bill Clinton is a new wave of neoliberalism is kind of like conservatism mixed with a little liberalism. Little Democrat sprinkle it in there. That's what I think of it. But yeah.
Time to unpack what neoliberalism is in depth. And we're not going to start today. Here's someone else doing it for us.
Yeah, I mean, neoliberalism gets used in a number of different ways. So
I find, as with any of these sort of ism terms, it's most helpful not to sort of decide this is the only one and true definition, but rather just sort of have a follow-up question every time someone uses the category.
This is Quinn Slobodian, a professor of international history at Boston University and the author of Crack Up Capitalism, Globalists, and the soon-to-be-released Hayek's Bastards. According to him, there are around 4 definitions.
There's kind of 4 different ways that people tend to use neoliberalism. One of the ways, I think, is to just talk about a kind of a period of global capitalism. So people will be like, when did neoliberalism begin? Was it with, the oil shocks, the closing of the gold window, Reagan and Thatcher, European Union and NAFTA, the unleashing of the tech bubble in the late 90s, or kind of the drive up of stock prices since then? I think personally, it's good to sort of drill down from there. First of all, to sort of say, all right, what are the set of policies we would expect to see to identify neoliberalism, like in action?
I say, yeah, neoliberalism, in my eyes, started with all that stuff. Like, yeah, before Bill Clinton, Reagan, and, NAFTA, then, I said NAFTA, excuse me, y'all, I'm crazy. And, the internet bubble, yeah, it's like all this stuff builds up. It's like a box. You put stuff in the box, and the box fills up. That's what
in that period, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s. And there you'd see things like privatization of state-owned assets becoming private property. You'd see the liberalization, so moves towards free trade and the movement of capital over borders being easier, investment over borders. You would see things like deregulation, so the changing of standards and expectations on companies to make it easier for them to often concentrate and grab market share. So I think that, neoliberalism as a kind of a policy package would probably be the second way people think about it. A third way they think about it, I think, and you get this a lot kind of online maybe, especially, is being neoliberal is like a kind of a way of thinking about yourself as a kind of like a bundle of assets that can be like leveraged and maximized. So this idea of neoliberalism as like an entrepreneurship of the self is a kind of internalized logic of action. But the fourth way is to think about it as a kind of pretty discrete intellectual movement that began with a group of thinkers in the 1930s, trying to differentiate themselves from fascism and communists, as well as 19th century classical liberals like John Stuart Mill and people of that ilk. They then organized kind of formally in the 1940s in something called the Mont Pelerin Society.
Let's stay on that last one for a minute. This is what he's talking about. What you're looking at right now is a picture from the founding meeting of the Mont Pelerin Society, an academic group who would develop and advocate this new theory of political economy back in the 40s. Before neoliberalism had all these definitions, it was just a couple guys kicking it in Switzerland. The ski trip made it out the group chat. Let's go, dude. At the head of this organization, you had Friedrich Hayek, an Austrian economist bringing together a group of mostly academics, some journalists, and a few government officials to talk about where they wanted to see the world going. And the way they wanted to see the world going was rich people getting richer.
What a sale! Holy bang!
Of course. Hey, it had to always start somewhere, right? I mean, I'm not surprised. I mean, like this is why it's good to read up on stuff. So basically, you take the idea from the 1930s and you accelerate it to now, where all of that, like the rich is constantly getting richer, and you have comrades that can't afford their rent because that's how the rich get richer. So, not surprising at all. Not surprising.
Money!
$1 billion stacked up right.
If you want to think about it in terms of how would this actually happen, like what would a neoliberal government actually do, basically, list goes, editor, do the thing, not reading all that. Now, why would anyone want the rich to get richer? See, around this time, the 30s, a pretty big contingent of conservative economists were arriving at a similar conclusion. Post-World War I, the rules of politics and capitalism had changed. Instead of kings and presidents quietly letting capitalists run free, you had new, somewhat democratically elected leaders being forced into giving their citizens a say about what countries should do with their stuff. Communists and socialists took this concept and ran with it by bringing more of the economy under direct public control and planning. Meanwhile, capitalist countries stayed afloat by doing a diluted version of something similar, holding the business owner's hand either by giving workers social services and keeping unemployment low so they wouldn't revolt, a la Keynes in the US,
i.e. New Deal. Like, yeah, the New Deal did a lot of good stuff for a lot of people, particularly white working class people. Let's keep it 100. But again, it's like, New Deal isn't fucking communism. Like some of these leftists, man, look at FDR as the fucking, like he was the and look at him as a god, man. Like, geez, like, I mean, yeah, the New Deal was a good. I'm not gonna lie, it says not a good thing, but again, it could have had a lot of more a communist twist to it, if you know what I mean. But over time, when the New Deal gave the working class, gave them a whole piece of a pie. Think of New Deal as a pie, and then over time, the slices get smaller and smaller and smaller until eventually you got crumbs. And this is where we are now. They give us crumbs sometimes. Sometimes, like think of it like that.
or beating up anyone who wasn't happy, a la Hitler and Mussolini. Now, these conservative economists in the 30s, they could tolerate Hitler and Mussolini for a minute. But they didn't like the Pandora's box that was being opened all over the world when workers and governments started getting directly involved in economic decisions.
You had sort of forms of collectivism, as they saw it, sort of fascism on the right and socialism and communism on the left. And there was a need to sort of rethink the state to protect the market from these efforts that kind of, redistributing everything a la communism and getting rid of private property, or else sort of driving the whole economy towards like war, annexation ends in the case of fascism.
See, the reason why the capitalist class don't want communism because a lot of the means of production will be publicized. Like, they want, the capitalists want everything to themselves. They like he said, like the New Deal basically kept, it kept from a revolution happening. Then eventually people got most of what they want, and it was comfortable for a long time until now. Now you're seeing a lot of people that have been comfortable during the Bush years, the Obama years, even early Trump years. Now that shit is being affected because Trump said, hell, I'm gonna make my billionaire robber baron buddies more richer. I mean, so yeah, that's why you see these people in town halls acting. I mean, as my auntie said, cutting up. They be cutting up. So, yeah.
So neoliberalism at that point was an attempt to sort of say, how can we use the state creatively to protect market dynamics instead of to overrun or squash market dynamics?
Howdy friends, JT from the future here. I just wanted to take a quick second to do a shameless plug for Means TV. Both anti-every really want to, or $90 to help support our... Alright, serfdom. If you were in the US in the 40s, you know what? Let's do something. Let's look at some cartoons. This is Hayek's most popular book, The Road to Serfdom. If you were in the US in the 40s, there's a chance this is how you would have been introduced to neoliberal thought. In a short cartoon you'd get handed at work. Or maybe like this, condensed to a few thousand words in Reader's Digest, at that point the most popular magazine in the US. In text like The Road to Serfdom, millions of Americans were exposed to the ideas of thinkers like Hayek, neoliberal thinkers who all argued for some version of the following ideas. The market is a real thing, completely separate from politics, that produces inequality, and that's a good thing. While no market is perfect, these outcomes are inevitable, like evolution or physics. The market is a fact of life, something completely separate from collective human agency. Anytime people want to organize things differently than by letting business owners call the shots, that's something called market intervention, and it's bad because there's no way to do that that doesn't result in what they call tyranny. Essentially, tyranny being business owners not getting to do exactly what they want. These guys don't necessarily think being a business owner means...
So basically, the goal was at that time for Reader Digest is to convince people that, hey, the New Deal and stuff like that, it propped you up. But hey, think about this. It's like, those same billionaires that millionaires at the time probably, right? And billionaires is the new millionaire now. Those people, technically, see what's going on is, they have to explain it like this, with that Reader Digest. I bet y'all like, what the hell I'm talking about? Let me explain, like, before I let him continue. Like, they're trying to pin neoliberalism as a new way. They're trying to drill it into the masses' heads, which they have done. Like, that's why I say propaganda propaganda has its place. Like, that's why we are where we are now. So yeah.
Everything going perfectly or getting everything that you desire, but they do think that business owners trying to achieve that is the only legitimate way to organize stuff being produced and distributed. Democracy is, therefore, a huge problem for neoliberals. These thinkers quite correctly figured out that in the process...
Yeah, like unions is a problem. Having a union is a problem because, unions, basically, the job of a union is to get what you want from your job, which a lot of people do work their asses off, which my thing is, some people work too hard. Like my coworker, for example, he goes beyond the pale because he loves to work. There's a lot of people that love to work, and I think him and a lot of other people. I like to work too, but I like to get treated right at the workplace. And so by what neoliberalism do is it dilutes unions or it takes unions away. Like Walmart. Like Walmart does a good job of being anti-union. That's why I saw these videos where, these old Walmart videos where they basically telling people like, hey, if you're in your union, you'll lose your benefits, so you lose all of this stuff, and which is a lie. But people see they like people to be desperate. They like they like for people. They like to hire desperate people because desperate people are willing to fall in line versus somebody with a union, which they have leverage. And the capitalist class hates that. they hate that. That's why they got rid of Christian Smalls, because Christian Smalls realized that, hey, during at that time 5 years ago, you're in a pandemic. Amazon. People still worked during the pandemic. People deserve better treatment, and that I'm pretty sure that went to Jeff Bezos, and they got rid of Christian Smalls, and and then Amazon went all in to be anti-union, just like Walmart and these other places. So yeah, that's the one of the bases of neoliberalism, in my opinion.
Process of business owners calling the shots, other people weren't going to be happy working for someone else and barely making a living. In a democratic system, they might start demanding welfare, decent wages, normal hours. They might stop working to get those things. And all of that gets in the way of a few people making a quick buck by any means necessary. Instead of democracy, then, these guys started advocating for freedom.
Freedom.
As they understood it. Meaning protecting capitalists from the people they've stolen from, those they've exploited, and making sure they'd be free to keep their ill-gotten gains and continue without society's laws changing in any way that would hurt their business interests. Capitalists, entrepreneurs, business owners, whatever you call them, they all needed to be protected from people's desire for equality and fair treatment. And that also meant protecting them from national...
And let's be real, man. The stuff that people ask for is crumbs. Like, they don't want to give you crumbs, like, because that affects their bottom line. Like, that's just that's amazing to me, but it's not surprising. Like, like they say, the job of a CEO is, in its law, to be beholden to the shareholders. Like, if the CEO job is to make money for the billionaires. You know, CEO ain't the richest motherfucker. Like CEO just supposed to be the money making guy. You know, find ways to fuck over the working class. So yeah, it all makes sense.
Governments, who were increasingly pressured into not letting them do all that, and who had started to show off the fact that even they could replace capitalists if they needed to. But that doesn't mean neoliberals wanted small government. This is important. Unlike earlier liberals who might have said that you either have a powerful state or a powerful market, neoliberals realized that in order to protect market outcomes from democracy, the rich getting richer, you needed a new kind of state. A neoliberal state. One that will encase the capitalist economy and protect it from the rabble. But that wasn't enough. Then above the state, they wanted a system of institutions that would make sure countries would be kept in check and never succumb to democracy. Institutions which would codify into international law the rights of investors and then actually enforce them by punishing countries who didn't put profit first.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most common error, which incredibly sort of comes up decade after decade, is this idea that neoliberalism means the kind of withdrawing of the state and the kind of triumph of an unfettered market. So just private actors operating in a kind of anarchic state of self-organization. Actually, this has never been the case. So if you're describing the policies of someone like Margaret Thatcher or Ronald Reagan or Bill Clinton, then what they're doing is not actually taking the state out of the market. They're actually not rolling back the state only, they're also rolling out a new kind of state. So for example, people might talk about free trade or the 90s and 2000s as an era of unfettered markets. But that was also a time where you got like literally tens of thousands of new bilateral investment treaties, new forms of arbitration, new forms of investor-state dispute settlement arrangements. So actually what's called free or unfettered trade is actually super thick with different kinds of laws, agreements being made between states. The difference is that there are agreements and laws being made primarily to protect a certain kind of a market against any attempt to kind of interfere.
So yeah, I'm gonna end it right there. Watch the rest of your stuff. I'm not gonna play the whole thing out of respect of second thought. But yeah, like this is why they wanted free trade, because what does free trade do? Free trade limits regulation, which means that the capitalists can ship their jobs overseas because it's cheaper, you know, because those countries, like, you know, the wages, you know, people won't be demanding, you know, a thriving wage like they do here, which means that the billionaire pockets will fill up even more on, you know, and it keeps other countries from saying, hey, you know, I don't, you know, hey, you shouldn't, hey, you need to pay our people right. Instead of that, they say, we ain't gonna do that. You know, it's just, you know, I mean, but really, to be honest with you, NAFTA TPP really made China what they is now. So yeah, like so yeah, man, that's neoliberalism for you. Um, my final thoughts on it is that yeah, it needs to go, man. Get rid of neoliberalism, bring in communism, socialism. Like we need a system like that. And as I won't be happy until the American empire, which is an empire of neoliberalism, burns down. So, all right, guys, on to the next story. All right, guys, before I get to the next video, be sure to like the video. It's free and it don't cost you nothing. So, yeah, I got this article from Mundo Weiss. Really, it's an opinion piece, and I found it very interesting. I ain't gonna lie to you. Um, you know, it's some truth to this. It says Americans find it easier to mourn the death of free speech than the death of 60,000 Palestinians, which I think that 60,000 is an undercount, but you know that's the Gaza Ministry of Health says. So, you know, I mean, you gotta go by the numbers, like you know, based on, you know, people being trapped on the rubble, you gotta say that's tens of thousands or more, right? So yeah, I'm finna read this article. It says, a day after kidnapping and imprisonment of Mahmoud Khalil, I found myself chatting with an American peer. It had been a little over 5 months since both of us had left America to pursue postgraduate education in the UK. In this time, both of us have been spectators of America's right-wing spiral, the re-election of Donald Trump, the rise of big tech moguls, moonlighting policymakers, the virtual dismantling of diversity, equality, and inclusion initiatives in education, and most recently, the arbitrary detentions and deportation of pro-Palestine permanent residents and international students. Which these are seemingly un-American acts that have come to define and embarrass and scare liberal America. Now, I wouldn't say it scared liberal America because, to be honest with you, like, I mean, I seen this sign at one of these anti-Trump rallies that says if Kamala was president, we'll be at brunch. Which, like, a liberal know they know. Like, the only reason why it scares them now, I'll say, is because Donald Trump is doing it. See, Joe Biden orchestrated a genocide, and they really didn't give a shit. But now since all DEI and and is affected, and like you said, pro-Palestine pro-Palestine activists with green cards, by the way, which means the American citizens are being damn near deported. And then you got a judge in Louisiana, my state, saying that yeah, Mahmoud Khalil couldn't get deported. Like this is America for you. In a well-meaning gesture, he asked me, given everything that's happening right now, are you worried? Will you be visiting the U.S. anytime soon? His nervousness stemmed from knowing about my involvement in pro-Palestine organizing in the United States and the backlist sanctions and online hate that followed it. Despite having lived in Pakistan for most of my life, I explained to him that I was born in the U.S. and carry a blue passport, and therefore not as worried nor as seemingly vulnerable as many of my international student peers in the state. At least for now. So basically, he's saying that he has no, he has no chance of being deported or anything like that. He said he sighed with relief and proceeded to confess. Mahmoud Khalil's imprisonment had changed how he viewed the protests in America. At first, the pro-Palestine rhetoric had only simmered in the background of his college day-to-day, if at all. Now it was the front and center of his mind. Detained students and academics were, in fact, central to the Trump administration crackdown on dissent. Free speech was under siege and something had to be done. America could not slide back into McCarthyism. This is not who we are beside. So yeah, basically what he's saying there is, yeah, they trying to make an example out of Mahmoud Khalil. Like they saying like, hey, you people protesting, you people being suspectedly, anti-Semitic, which again, like the people that are protesting are mostly Jews. So you calling non-Jews anti-Semitic, but what are the people that are Jews? Like, how can Jews be anti-Semitic? Like, that don't make any sense. And so America is basically been in McCarthyism for a long time. I mean, nothing else is new about that. And this is the history of it. Let me see. Uh, it says, I'll read this. It says, my peers' naivety is an expression of the systematic intolerance built into the fabric of Americanness, a feature of American society that continues to help defend, mold, and perpetrate empire, except now the rest of the world has fewer reasons to tolerate these claims to innocence as a televised genocide unfolds before our eyes. A blockade of humanitarian aid, water, fuel, and thousands of murdered children and blatant calls for ethnic cleansing. America has no excuses left. The atrocities in Gaza are mistakenly visible on campuses, in the workplace, and on every phone screen. Turning a blind eye on the assault of Palestine is an active choice, and that's the part I want to get to. Like, yeah, you know, everybody probably seen a picture or video of Palestinians being you know um, oppressed by airstrikes or anything like that. It's still a lot of people that are just you know don't really understand the scope of it. Like, it shouldn't have to take you reading loads of history, which, going back, like how Israel even became an apartheid state even isn't even that complicated. I mean, like you should know that what Israel's doing is not in self-defense. It's trying to ethnically cleanse a generation of people that are indigenous to that land. Like it shouldn't be that complicated, but some people look at that stuff and this is how most of Americans are. Like they're heartless. Like they see that stuff and they say, well, it ain't happening over here, so what can I do about it? That's what they always say. Not all of them. Most of them are on the right side of history, but some of them just don't care. And like what's happening in Palestine right now affects all of us. Like people should understand that. Like whatever happens in the world affects all of us. Because like when Israel dropped those bombs, like that elevates the climate crisis even more. So yeah, like it affects all of us in one way, shape, or form. It says the occupation of Palestine has been an investment for the United States long before Trump focalized his intent on annexing Gaza for commercial gain. Decades-long investment has been means to placate Zionist voters and lobbies and to ensure that American strategic partnership with the apartheid state remain intact. Trump detentions must be situated with the larger bipartisan context of America burning, enabling, and justifying Israeli expropriation ex, expropriation of Palestinian land and lives. American authoritarian turn has manifested in various ways over the last 18 months. The smokescreen of campus anti-Semitism, barring Palestinians. So speaking at the Democratic National Convention, which that right there, man, still like, like it turns out that that person that was supposed to speak there was going to convince people to vote for Kamala. And the reason why the Democrats didn't let a Palestinian speak is because they were scared that that a person that's Palestinian, that whose people are getting right now bombs dropped on their head, is going to talk about the genocide that's happening. Like, what do you expect them to do? To say? I mean, of course they're gonna bring it up. Um, and also, too, people got fired. Like, I remember this nurse in New York got fired for supporting Palestine. Like in New York. So yeah, like people losing their jobs over this, which it just shows me what most of some like these freaks of y'all know what I'm saying. Uh, it says Trump's detentions must be situated with the larger bipartisan context of America arming, enabling, and justifying Israeli. I read that. Sorry, guys. Shit. And a persistent refusal to reconsider financing Israel's crime against humanity. Even now, as Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer reluctantly condemns Mahmoud Khalil's detention, he caveats by vilifying the options and policies that Khalil seemingly stands for, which don't make any sense. You saying, "Oh, he shouldn't be deported," but I don't agree with what he stands for. Which, I mean, Chuck Schumer, you are a genocidal maniac. Of course, you'll say that. I mean, what else is new? Um, um, it says Cory Booker's 25-hour-long marathon speech made for the most neglectable mention of Palestine, not to mention his consistent endorsement of the uh, Israeli assaults, once again rendering the genocide insignificant for the liberal conscience. So yeah, I'm gonna end it there. It's a long opinion piece. It's good to read. Check it out yourself. Um, yeah, man, he's right. Like you look at America, you know, the people that are pro-Israel, they get glorified, but the Mahmoud Khalils of the world and the pro-Palestine protesters, they get their heads beat out of, or they get detained, or they get deported. So, all right, guys, on to the next story. So, all right, guys. So the next story I want to talk about is Yeah, it talks about breakdown in U.S.-China relations, raises specter of a new Cold War. I mean, let me say this. First of all, like, see, the United States, man, they know that they're not winning this trade war. Like, first of all, you got China makes everything that the U.S. uses. So, yeah, it did. Uh, uh, excuse me, ass. Holy fuck. On top of that, I don't know why I'm yawning so much. Maybe because these news stories are just getting to be too much. Second of all, it's like, okay, we are in a trade war with a country that makes everything. And then on top of that, China said they're pulling most of their natural resources away from us. So they sell it to Germany. Like I said before, Germany could charge us, any amount they want to because China sold it to them for cheaper, and because China is basically overtaking the United States as the global power. The United States in their fifi. So I'm finna read it. It's a decent read. Wall Street Journal is a right wing piece, so so some of the wording might be related to that, but let me continue. It says, for decades, no matter how relations between Beijing and Washington waxed or waned, trade and investment that the glue that kept the two powers together. Today, with economic relations between the two careening off the rails, China and the U.S. are headed towards what could be a Cold War that extends beyond trade to deepening conflict or even military tensions as both seek to form their own blocks. Yeah, like if we went to militarily war with China, um, it will be a belt to ass ratio. I'm just saying, belt to ass. Like, bro, come on. And then shout out to Left Independent, a member of the ATP network. He said that the U.S. military is 75% capacity, which my thing is, if you're going in all out war, you need at least close to 100%. But I might bring Mike on to talk about that. The current scenario was once unthinkable during President Trump's first presidency. Washington and Beijing were both electing to throw their deep entanglements into complete disarray. Their first trade war played out over 2 years and involved frequent negotiations and fear of escalation on both sides. This time, the two countries have effectively erected trade embargoes against each other in less than 3 months and are taking economic warfare to new territory. What is at stake over global security as well as economic stability for years to come? The U.S. and China are in a state of economic decoupling, and there do not seem to be any guardrails to prevent escalations in trade tensions spreading to other areas, said Rick Waters, former senior U.S. diplomat who now runs the China Center at the Carnegie Endowment for Global Peace. It's becoming more difficult to argue that we're not in a new Cold War. It says, for Chinese leader Xi Jinping, is an all hands on deck moment that he and his inner circle have been preparing since Trump's first term. And after the initial shock from the magnitude of Trump's recent tariff hits, Beijing is now in full blown retaliatory mode, vowing to fight to the end. So yeah, man, China is not scared of the United States. Like, I mean, come on. Like, I'm pretty sure China was like, when soon as Trump announced that Trump won the election last year, I'm pretty sure China was like, yeah, yeah, we already went through the first time of him raising terrorists. So let's not play with him anymore. Like, yeah, we tired of, like, basically China said, we tired of fucking around with this guy. Um, so it says, and its tools hit back the U.S. aren't limited to economic weapons such as retaliatory tariffs, blacklists targeting U.S. companies, and the restriction on exports of its critical minerals, like for example, materials to make your phones and stuff work. Like, you won't have that because China took that away. It says, according to people who consult with Chinese officials, Beijing's recent statement that it's done with tit for tat tariff responses signals that it might be to moving to other non-economic methods. Both countries have accused each other of increasingly brazen cyber attacks. One option Beijing has, the people said, involves leveraging the data, call logs, and other information it gathered from years of intrusion into computer networks at U.S. ports, water utilities, airports, and other targets. It says the Wall Street Journal reported earlier this month that in a secret Geneva meeting in December with the outgoing Biden administration, Chinese officials linked a series of cyber assaults on U.S. infrastructure to Washington's support of Taiwan, the self-ruled island Beijing has pledged to bring under to bring under its fold. Like people know that Beijing is a part of. I mean, Taiwan is a part of China, right? So I don't know why the United States act like Taiwan is a separate country. It's not. It's not. Um, Beijing could also step up its strategic cohesion against partners of the U.S., especially in the Indo-Pacific, at a time when the Trump administration's commitment to providing security in the region appears to be in doubt. Now it talks about security threats. See, this is how they get you, like saying, see, China might take it a step further, you know, and it might impose threats on us, or not, might do a cyber attack on us, which is fucking wild. Like, really? Alarms about security threat from China, which has been rising within the U.S. political and military establishment even before the latest cycle of tit-for-tat increases, have ramped up further. At an April 10th Senate hearing, Sam Papero, head of U.S. forces in the Indo-Pacific, called attention to China's increased military activities near Taiwan, which he said threatened the security of the U.S. and its allies. That was you think. On the U.S. side, Trump has signaled he is willing to withdraw security guarantees of countries depending on American support unless they make economic concessions. Behind the heightened risk of escalation beyond trade is a lack of effective communication between senior officials on both sides of the Pacific. Initially, Beijing hoped for a dialogue, but its insistence on formal diplomatic protocol proved to be a mismatch with a Trump team willing to engage with those closest to Xi, in particular the Chinese leader of staff, Cao Ki, whose portfolio includes cybersecurity, a core concern for Washington. Um, it says here, in the face of Trump's terrorist assault, Beijing has clamped up. Most recently, as trade tensions spiral, Trump himself has indicated that he would like Xi to call him. Trump officials have also suggested that Chinese diplomats that Foreign Minister Wang Yi reached out to Secretary of State Marco Rubio, according to people familiar with the matter. So far, Beijing has refused to engage on any front. So, yeah, I ended right there. Yeah, like China said that, hey, we tired of y'all bullshit. Like we're not talking to y'all. Like we're gonna cut y'all off. You know, we're gonna raid. We did our retaliatory tariffs. We're not doing anymore because China is still doing in the room, right? United States, you know, ran by a bunch of petulant toddlers like Trump and Musk and other people. Like, yeah. so so yeah, man. I mean, the person that always get fucked in this trade war is always the poor man, the working man. We always the ones that get the fucked over. So, um, but I don't blame China. Like, hey, like I'm pretty sure that if you were serious about like coming to an agreement about trade, then you would have done it already instead of just throwing up numbers. Like Trump said, he's gonna raise it to what 124%. And then the crazy thing about it is too, like, see Trump see Apple and them came to Trump and say, hey man, if you raise these tariffs like that, these iPhones gonna be about $3,000 a piece, or $1,000, over $1,000 a piece for the basic iPhone. So yeah, like, can you like take some of these tariffs off, at least electronic devices? And Trump has done that. So of course Trump caved, and also too Trump did a pump and dump scheme, which made his robber baron buddies richer. Like the guy's literally on camera saying that Charles Schwab um made what he said, $1 billion or something like that. So yeah, man, like end of the day, all of this trade war shit is about you know making the stock market weak so robber baron buddies can loot it. So all right, guys, on to the next story. So, all right, guys. So the next story I got is, shout out to generational change. I discovered these people through Savvy. They do a good job. Um, talking about stuff, talking about different things. Like, but they're talking about Bernie Sanders' oligarchy tour, and I talked about it long enough. I basically said what I said. A lot of people don't like what I said. But it's the truth. Like, in my opinion, like, this not only is to sheep herd people back to the Democratic Party, it's also to put AOC out there so she could run for president in 2028. So yeah, here's Nina Turner right here, Bernie's former campaign advisor, I think. Damn, I forgot. I knew she did something in Bernie's campaign. She talked about it, and she said some true stuff. So I'm finna play it for y'all, and give my thoughts on it.
I mean, our economy, 70% consumer-based economy. What sense does it make to trample upon poor people and working class people in this country? Obviously, for many of them, far too many of them, it makes a whole lot of sense, because all they're gonna do is go to Mars or Saturn or somewhere and mess up that planet. No, let's keep the mess down here on Earth. I don't want them going around there, Jen, messing up somebody else's planet. But you see what I'm getting at. I think the message is germane for everybody, and most people are working class. Some people may be six figures working class. I have a lot of friends who started working in government at the age of 18, and now they have amassed working what I would call working class millions. They are not of the ultra wealthy, but they're comfortable, but they care. So we need people from all economic strata to actually give a damn about what is happening to the everyday people in this country. Your point is well taken. I just want to add that to that. It's always the time to talk to people about why they should care. And if you are in the upper echelons of the economic strata, you should care even more. Hence the patriotic millionaires, which I know you and Peter are familiar with. Our big ups to them for going around the country saying this ain't right and tax us because we can afford it. We want to see a better country. And if you have to live behind a gated community, not because you want to, but because you have to, because there's civil unrest everywhere, I don't think that's the kind of country you want to live in. So it behooves us to get this thing right. And people who have more leisure time because they don't have to worry about, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, that base need, they can do more to help turn the tide. So everybody should be concerned. But I got you, Jen. I understand where you're coming from.
I definitely agree. Being in commercial real estate, I deal with the upper echelon of society. There, tons of people that I run into that are completely indifferent, and they think it's, a conqueror's world, if you will. I'm going to get mine, and that's that. But there's enough of them that really do understand that. If you're, think of it this way: if you're a wealthy investor, not Mr. Wexler, if you're out of Ohio, for example, and you own, let's say, a multifamily building in Akron, and people can't afford rent, what the hell is your investment worth? It's not worth anything. If people do not have the ability to get universal health care or a living wage, and they can't afford to pay $1,000.
I mean, to be honest with you, I'm gonna say this. Sorry if I glitched out, like internet things, but like I'm saying, it's coming to a point in time where, I just talked about neoliberalism. That's the goal. You make rent damn near unaffordable, where people have a roof over their head, but they don't have food, or they can't afford the other bills. Like, they don't care. It's all about profit. It's all about profit. That's why they increase rent. Like, rent doesn't have to go up. Rent should stay at a set price every month. Every year. Like, every year it goes up. That's why people have these leases where, um, that's how it works. Like, every year, either you get out of your lease. If you get out of your lease early, sometimes you don't get your security deposit back, or, if you, y'all know what I'm talking about. Like, that's why this stuff happened. Back to it.
$1,000 a month for rent in a 2-bedroom apartment, then what do you expect? How do you think you could possibly hoard all of the wealth? And the whole argument, obviously comes back to modern monetary theory and that it's not really a pie, but at the end of the day, it's the value of what you actually have. And if you don't have anything, if you have next to nothing, or you're dependent on the government because you can't afford to live otherwise, that's a broken system. It doesn't have to be that way.
No.
But there are way too many people that just copy the Walton family's model with Walmart and have executed it basically into almost every corner of our economic system. And at some point, you have to take a step back and say, this is unsustainable. I don't care if I have $10 million, $100 million. It doesn't matter. It's not going to be worth anything if even if I'm asset rich, which is the best rich to be if you're going to be anything. Just look at the topsy-turvy world of the stock market. I am not one who advocates for stock market investment. But if you are an investor in any way, and knowing the volatility of what we're dealing with right now, there is value without question in Bernie's message. I think that there are many layers to it, especially his opinion when it comes to Israel and Gaza. But if we're only talking specifically about why are he and Alex out there right now doing what they're doing, I don't begrudge them for being there, because there's a lot of people that are scared. They don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of economic uncertainty, and naturally,
I can say this. Like I said this before, but I don't mind repeating myself, because the more you repeat yourself, the more your word get out there. I think if AOC and Bernie, was doing this in terms of like building up another party, I'm all for it. Like, hey, I'm not gonna, I have my problems with AOC, I have my problem with Bernie, but just the problem is, it's like, if you know why they're doing what they're doing. They're trying to, they talking about the Republican oligarchy when the Democratic oligarchy is the same. Like, yeah, like they have the same donors. Like, I think they know that. They just choose to go one way. It's more than Trump and Elon Musk. It's a lot way more oligarchy motherfuckers out there. But let me continue.
when Trump will do, as he often does, shoots from the hip when it comes to economic and political policy, the people who will suffer first are always the people who are struggling the most to survive. And so I get that there are tens of thousands of people in Los Angeles and Salt Lake City and the like that want to hear him and hear her espouse this message of, we're not giving up on the system. We're not just going to let it fall apart. My question to you is, what is the point of this? What is their goal? I know you probably still talk to him. I'm sure you talk to her, and whatever.
That's a good question. Yeah. Well, I mean, I know the point of it is, but I like to give Tina Turner's opinion, because she, I'm pretty sure she still talk to Bernie every now and then. Like, Bernie, he could be such a cuck too. Like, you won't even you only talk to some of you don't talk to Cornel West no more. You don't talk to other people. Like, what's your deal? Yeah, let's hear it.
Information can be revealed. I think people want to hear this because they're giving a message of, we are going to fight the oligarchy. Yeah, I get it, Bernie. That's great. But if we're not fighting the oligarchy, for example, within the Democratic Party that trades on inside information just as much, if not more, than the Republican Party does, then we are arguing over nothing.
There you go. Yes. Yes, he said it better than I could say it. Like, bro, yeah, the oligarchy is bad, but again, it's like Democrats have oligarchy too. Nancy Pelosi do insider trading. Other Democratic officials do insider trading. That's horrible. Like, that's some oligarchy shit, bro. Like, why you ain't talking about that? If you get to, again, like, if you get these speeches say, the Democratic oligarchy is just as bad as the Republican, I'm like, okay, like why you haven't broke from the Democratic Party? I just don't understand. Like, you're supposed to be an independent, but you damn near coalesce with the Democrats on almost everything. So let it continue.
We're arguing over the fact that the system's broken, but we're not doing anything to fix it. So what do you want to see, and what should we see, and what should their message be ultimately in terms of how we go forward?
Yeah, I mean, motivating the choir is a beautiful thing. I mean, most of the people out there are nostalgic for Sanders' presidential run 2016 and 2020. Those are his people mainly. Let's make no mistake about it. He may have other folks tagging along, but those are his people. And when I look at these rallies, it makes me think about 2016 and 2020 And the three of us know what happened there. The neoliberals thwarted his very real chance of winning in both 2016 and also in 2020. They are responsible for Trump 2.0. This just did not happen during the 2024 election cycle. It's not just because we didn't have a robust primary. Hello, somebody in 2023. I'm gonna put that in the parking lot. This goes way back to 2015, actually. So what I would like to see, fine, motivate people, get them out. All of that stuff is grand. I want to see what we're going to do with them after that, after the cell phone lights are off, after the crowds are gone. What are we instructing them to do? I'm working on with my organization the resurrection of the freedom budget for all Americans as envisioned by Asa Philip Randolph, one of the best labor organizers of the 20th century, Bayard Rustin, one of the brainiacs behind the civil rights movement itself, and also the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And Jen and Peter, what they laid out in the late 60s, it was 1966, is a full-fledged plan to eradicate poverty in the United States of America in 10 years. It was what we would call a SMART goal before SMART goals even existed. And really, Asa Philip Randolph, one of the architects, his vision was based on the four freedoms of FDR. He pulled out the freedom from want. And what they said very clearly, they didn't say it this way, but we're a hegemonic nation. We have failed if people live in poverty. There's no reason for people to live in poverty because we are a hegemonic nation. So we ought to do something about it. We need to call on the forces of the political class to do something about it. And they assembled people from all walks of life, all the pillars of society, from religious to civic based. Over 150 people of high note signed on to this. And it was very clear that they didn't agree on every little thing. But as progressives in the 21st century, which I don't even use.
Yeah, I let her talk for a good minute there. But yeah, she basically saying like, well, basically what Bernie and AOC is doing is preaching to the choir. Like, I'm still shocked that Bernie has a significant base the way he does, which I guess to be honest with you, a lot of people that probably voted for Kamala Harris or Joe Biden like Bernie, but they've been told that Bernie is not the right choice, or stuff like that. But yeah, my issue with Bernie and ALC is, as I said again, it's like, yeah, like like what she said, like after the crowds is gone, like what are you actually doing to defeat the oligarchy? I mean, you talk you talk the talk while you walking the walk. like I could say, hey, you people online need to do mutual aid on the ground. You need to talk to your neighbors. But if you're not seeing me doing that, or seeing me like people taking pictures of me doing that, then what I'm doing? Like I'm wasting y'all time. I'm feeding y'all crap because that rhetoric I just said is, what a lot of the radical left is saying, that we should talk to our neighbors and build community and all that stuff. You gotta, like Rome. That's why a lot of people love Rome the way they do, because Rome, he actually not only talks the talk, he walks the walk. Like he leads by example. That's why, Sabby said on her show a few days ago, like a lot of people said Rome's the reason why they got into mutual aid. And to be honest with you, Rome is the reason why I got into mutual aid. So yeah, you can say let's fight the oligarchy. Let's we're gonna defeat them. We're gonna do all this, but you still in 2028 going to support the corporate candidate that is a part of the oligarchy, that been picked by the oligarchy to to run it in the Democratic Party. Then you waste those people time, and those people again is gonna like like you got their hopes up for nothing. So yeah, I'm gonna let her continue.
Use that word that much anymore. I'm a liberator because people have glommed on to progressive and it don't mean a damn thing to them. I am a liberator. But back to the freedom budget, guaranteed income. They were talking about that in the late 60s. A lot of the stuff that progressives think is new and hip and only started with Senator Sanders has been out there for a very long time. I do believe that the liberation struggle for all everyday working class people, oppressed peoples, stream through the Black liberation, because Black folks and their liberation, or our liberation journey, steeped in the type.
And also, to a side note, some of you don't know that Bernie Sanders is not the one that came up with Green New Deal. the Green New Deal was an idea by the Green Party. So yeah, like she's right. A lot of ideas that Bernie Sanders said now that's popular, like either other countries have it, like Medicare for all, or even back in the '60s, like she said, like to eradicate poverty, like those ideas, or UBI, I guess that she's insinuating. Like this shit been out here for years, decades. It's just been brought up again because brainstorming. So
Chattel slavery, but Jim and Jane Crow, sundown towns, red line. I mean, you name it. It is through that kind of suffering and what the African American community has been able to accomplish, and the resiliency under such pressure of that community is the key. And so the architects understood that all people, of all working class people, all poor people had to be in it. So guaranteed income, Medicare for all, farm parity, making sure that we take care of people who cannot work. All the things that we agree on. Now we can put some 21st century on it, which we have put in there more, less, no spending on war. Let's bring that stuff back here. Anti-war, pro-peace, more stuff about the environment, taking up some of the 21st century fights that they may not have thought about in the 20th century. But when I tell you it is a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant plan, we need people to take up that plan, the freedom budget for all Americans. So, Peter, that was a long way for me to say, I got the rallies, love the rallies, reminds me of 2016, 2020, but we need action after this. We got to organize people and galvanize them.
Yep. So basically, all that rhetoric she said, which was good, I give Nina Turner a lot of credit. But yeah, you need action. Like you can't be one sided. Like you can't say the Republican oligarchy needs to go, and so the Democrats can still have their oligarchy. Now, fuck that. Both of them got to go. Like the two-party system has to go. Like we need a new system. Like it's beyond Democrat, Republican, third party. Like really, the whole system, has to go. And I get what a lot of people say about third parties, saying that, hey, third parties, the system is rigged to a point where third parties have no shot. Like, yeah, I get that. Like, that's what I said. It has to change. Like, I think that the system should be turned into one person, one vote. I think fuck parties. Parties is none. Parties has been really turned into a factor to divide the working class. Like, the one thing that the capitalists love more than anything, they want the working class to hate each other. They want us to, smear each other. It's happening. Like, they got what they wanted. They want the blue collar workers to smear the ones that are getting SNAP benefits and other stuff like that. Like even though that people should know that the little amount of money you get at SNAP doesn't equate to the money that your government is sending to Ukraine and Israel to cause death and destruction, and then all the money that was spent during the Iraq War and Afghanistan to kill millions of Muslims. So yeah, talk is cheap. It really is. I agree. Talk is cheap. Like people are getting really a lot of people. The Kalinskis and them, smear us because we are saying that what Bernie LC is doing is just talking. Like if you're doing all this just to put AOC out there to run in 2028, which she's not going to win the primary because that's not what the oligarchy wants. They want a corporate Democrat that will do whatever the oligarchy tells them to do. Like this is how the game works, man. But I'll let it continue for a few more minutes.
Them towards a thing. It's one thing to fight against neoliberalism. We got to fight for something, and that is missing for the Democratic Party in particular. That fight has to animate the masses of the people in this country who have been left behind. The Democratic Party failed. They need new leadership. They need an autopsy, and they need to apologize to the American people for losing, because this merciless attack on the everyday people of this country that's coming from this current president is brought to you by the the neoliberal Democrats.
Yes, for sure. Actually, what's interesting is, so I'm reading this book called Revolt of the Rich, How the Politics of the 19th.
So yeah, I'm gonna end it there. Um, so yeah, Nina, she told the truth. I give her credit when credit is due. Like, yeah, what are you gonna do when the cameras are off? Like, to be honest with you, this is nothing but a photo op to get AOC name out there more to people. Like, and then on top of it, to tell people who are Democrats. So, all right, guys, on to the left. All right, guys. Now, I might get into a little bit of a cussing tirade here because this shit, man, is going on way long enough, man. Like, you read the article. It says, Israel burns 8 children to death in Gaza safe zone. And this is supposed to be the zone where I don't think Israel is supposed to bum or fuck with. But apparently, they don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck. And, like, I regret giving Donald Trump so much credit for this ceasefire. This ceasefire, to be honest with you, isn't really wasn't a ceasefire to begin with. It was a fucking PR stunt, I guess. Like, one thing about Donald Trump, though, I would give him this. Like, he know how to read a room, and he knew that most of the people don't like war shit. So he, pushed for this ceasefire, and Israel still killed Palestinians during this ceasefire. But yeah, I'm finna read this. It's heartbreaking. Um, Abrim Abu Shah sits in a European hospital in Yonkers next to the bloody bodies of her family members. Jesus. They were killed in an Israeli airstrike on a temp encampment for the displaced in the Mawasi safe zone in Yonkers on Thursday morning. The tents caught fire and the occupants were burned alive. This scene has become a popular occurrence in Gaza. It says at the site of the bombing in Khan Yunis, residents gathered around the bomb tent, which were reduced to pile of ash and scraps mixed with blood. They tried and collect the remains of the martyrs, walking beside the bomb tents with extreme care and caution. Residents and rescue team retrieved 15 bodies. 8 of those, including those of 8 children, all of them were charred black. Jesus. This is so hard to read. Among them was a mother and her 3 children who were burned beyond recognition, according to eyewitnesses who spoke with Mondo Weiss. The civil defense described this as a heinous crime that took the lives of 15 martyrs, most of them women and children. But again, like these pro-Israel zealots will say that Israel has the right to defend itself. Well, those children, those kids in that mother, were they doing anything, malicious? No, they're just trying to survive. The buildings around them where they lived at are a damn rubble. Like, living in tents now it's going to be hot as hell because summer is approaching. And yeah, it's rough. Yosef, a witness to the bombing, said via video testimony for Mondo Weiss that the Israeli army targeted 4 tents inhabited by 4 families with a single missile. He described how the missile sparked an intense fire that residents could not extinguish. We heard the sound of an explosion and then intense and strong flames erupted. Um, Abu said, "We couldn't get close enough to help them. We got as close as we could, but we saw the women and children burning and dying right before our eyes. We saw them and our children saw and heard everything." Abu continued with the harrowing account describing how most of the neighboring families smelled a stench of burned human flesh. Jesus Christ, man. And how the types of missiles the Israeli army fired on the tents were like nothing he ever seen. Burning everything, even the metal utensils inside the tents. They are deadly weapons. They melted the aluminum cooking utensils inside. How could they affect the body of a small child no more than 3 years old? Abu said. The bodies were completely blackened. Only the skeletons remained. Even the bodies were melted, he continued. Abu noted that the families were sleeping in tents after returning from congratulating a relative on his wedding. They returned to their tents and went to sleep and never wake up. Jeez. They said this was the safe zone where we must stay to save our lives, which was a trap. The safe zone was a trap. Like, yeah, Israel dude tell them, hey, you need to move south. Bum the people in the south, then tell people, hey, you need to move up north. Bum people in the north. Like, yeah, that's a trap. That's a trap. Um, they've been doing this. It says, yeah, it was a trap to kill and burn us. Where do we go to be safe? We bury our children as skeleton and melted bones. Jesus. The Israeli bombardment of tents and displacement centers in various areas of the Gaza Strip continued throughout the day. The Gaza Ministry of Health daily report on April 17 said that 40 people were killed in the last 24 hours. The civil defense stated that its rescue crews had recovered 6 other martyrs and a number of wounded in Beit Lahia in northern Gaza after a tent sheltering the displaced was also targeted on the same day. This was followed by the targeting of the Al Yahubiya school in North Gaza, in addition to dozens of massacres targeting families who were killed in their homes across the strip. Among the martyred were 3 children belonging to the Al Attal family in the Beit Lahia tent bombings. Witnesses on the scene told Monday Weeks via recorded testimony that the Israeli army killed them by dropping a bomb over their heads from a quadcopter drone. It says, Marwan al-Attal, a relative of the martyrs in Beit Lahia, said that the majority of the martyrs were children and they were dismembered. Jesus. Let's assume that one of the people in this tent is wanted by Israel. Why are they killing children alongside him? Because Israel is evil. Marwan asks. They couldn't have killed him away from the children somewhere else. Hell, don't kill him at all. That's what I would say. Why send a plane to kill the children? Is this what Netanyahu and Israel is doing? Killing children sleeping in tents? Is this their military achievement? Yes. Like, this is what Israel wants to do. They want to wipe out indigenous people off their land. I mean, that's the goal. I hate to end this live stream set with a sad story like this, but people need to recognize what's going on, man. Um, I'm pretty sure those missiles that the guy described were U.S. made missiles. I mean, and people, I forgot to mention this in the American video, but people want me to be proud to be American, and our tax dollars is paying for missiles to kill innocent women and children that are just minding their own business in their tents, trying to survive. Like, you want me to be a proud American? But if I say that, people say I should leave. Well, first of all, I'll be glad to leave America. I mean, hell yeah. Hell, the first motherfucking plane ticket out of here? Hell yeah. Like, compared to America, at least other developed countries have health care. so, so, you know, um, I won't get sent a fucking massive bill that I can't afford. So, yeah, that's the story came from Mundo Weeks, man. You know, um, this shit gets, man, like, yeah, like seeing the images of women and children getting their body parts blown off, man. That shit will stay for you forever. And there's no way in hell that Israel reputation will be fixed. Like, Israel is done. Israel is finished, rightfully so. Yeah, like, you know, the generations that come after us, man, look back at us and say, like, wow, like, this country is some evil ass country to enable this. Yes, they are. So, all right, guys, that's the show. I hope you guys enjoyed the Tuesday edition of the Good Faith Show on the ATP Network. Thank you to the people that watch this stuff, man. Watch this show. I'm putting in the work. It's not easy sometimes. Sometimes I want to lay in my bed and do nothing. Like, that's just my headspace is not good. Um, Shameless plugs before I go. Follow the official ATP Network Twitter account. The handle for that right there is at ATP Network 247. Follow the ATP Network crew. Liz, Horror Girl, me, Left Indy, Mike, Travis, Ibar 11, and Damien, Dano 1490. That's all links right there. And like the video, it's free. It don't cost you nothing. subscribe as well, and also too, man, if you want to help these Palestinians, some of them try to escape. Um, Go to GazaFunds.com. All of the GoFundMe's are verified. It's a team of people. They don't make no money off of these fundraisers. It's just a place where people, Palestinians put their stories on there. You read them, you tweet them out. You donate. You do what you can. Every little thing helps. Every little thing helps. Like, and so some of the unserious people out there on Twitter, instead of you screen capping people's, misery and stuff, making people's lives a living hell. How about going to GazaFunds.com right here? Right here. Right here. Damn, man. I don't know what the fuck I be doing. And supporting. It's support. Do something productive with your lives, man. It's like some people have too much time on the internet, man. I could talk about that for hours, but I'm not. So yeah. Thank you guys for watching the Good Faith Show. I'm Andre Morton signing out. Have a good one. Oh yeah, before I go, fuck Benjamin Netanyahu.